Today, Rajya Sabha passed the Fugitive Economic Offender Bill, which promised our country that we wouldn't have to face the humiliation of seeing one scamster after another cheating us of massive amounts of taxpayer money, only to sit very comfortably abroad. Yes, I am referring to the likes of billionaire businessmen like Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi, and now most recently of Mehul Choksi, who basically bought himself a citizenship of an obscure country like Antigua. A side note, on the map, it's very close to St. Kitts in the Caribbean, which brings back memories of corruption scandals of years ago for all of us Indians. We'll talk about Mehul Choksi, most wanted in the PNB scam, and his Antigua route on Reality Check tonight. But first, a look at what the finance minister said about the bill which will prevent economic offenders from escaping. That's what it's claiming to do. It's for offences more than 100 crore rupees, and it says it will fall under the purview of this law. It says those who leave India or refuse to return to avoid prosecution, they'll be roped in by authorities by the provision that the offender's properties can be confiscated as proceeds of crime, and that the fugitive offender loses the right to civil claim after confiscation. Here's what the minister said about it when it was passed by Rajya Sabha.
विदेश मंत्री जी ने कहा था कि अभी तक हमारे पास 48 कंट्रीज 48 देशों के साथ एक्सट्रेडिशन ट्रीटी साइन हो चुकी है। अगर एक्सट्रेडिशन ट्रीटी नहीं हो तो भी हमारे प्रयास जारी रहते हैं डिप्लोमेटिक एंड अदर चैनल्स के माध्यम से व्यक्ति को वापस लाने के लिए। मैं बताना चाहूंगा कि 100 करोड़ कोई ऐसी लिमिट नहीं है कि 100 करोड़ के नीचे लोग फ्री हो जाएंगे, बरी हो जाएंगे। आज भी सभी के ऊपर कानूनी कार्रवाई चल रही है अलग अलग कानून के तहत, लेकिन अगर हमें फोकस करना है बड़े ऑफेंडर्स पे तो उस वजह से इस कानून को 100 करोड़ एंड अबव ऐसा बनाया गया है।
Now, the government and its agencies like the Enforcement Directorate claim that this law has put the fear of God in those like United Breweries chairman Vijay Mallya. They say that Mallya sent feelers, because he's scared of this law, that he sent feelers he wants to return. The Enforcement Directorate, of course, had moved court to confiscate all his assets, that's worth 12,500 crores, and that the government was about to send the court, the UK court, a notice about this. But Mallya can be declared fugitive offender if he doesn't return. So we'll speak to our experts about whether that's true or not, whether it's really the fear of this law that is making Mallya send feelers, say that, and tell the authorities that he wants to come back. We'll ask our experts if this is true, especially when you see just how offender after offender have gotten away, especially the most latest instance of Mehul Choksi, who bought the citizenship for Antigua by investment of just 1.5 crore rupees. Nothing in comparison to the 13,000 crore scam that he is wanted for. So in November 2017, let me just give our viewers a little background of him. So November 2017 is when he first he'd applied for Antiguan citizenship, he got it. January 4th is when he leaves India. On the 15th, that's when just about a week later, 10 days later, he took oath of allegiance to Antigua. So all of that pre-planned. And it was only a month later, on the 16th of February, that the CBI filed an FIR against Choksi. And he ignores everything that the CBI says afterwards to him. They summon him, he ignores everything because now he's sitting in Antigua, he's got the citizenship. And then June 10th, we don't even know about it. June 10th, CBI writes to Interpol for red corner notice on Choksi, and Interpol asks for clarification. And that's when, on the 23rd, that's just a couple of days ago, United States writes to India and informs them that Choksi is in Antigua, and now CBI has written to Antigua government for information on his whereabouts. So it's not just Mehul Choksi who's vanished on us by taking this route. There's also Jatin Mehta, who's taken citizenship of St. Kitts. There's also Lalit Modi, who's taken citizenship of Malta. And there's a whole list of countries which have such provisions which make them havens. There are lots of those countries, of course, these two countries as well. We can, even other countries like Dominica and others as well. So let me just speak to and get into these details and get to the reality of it with our guests. We have in studio AP Singh. He's the former CBI director. He was chasing all these offenders still a few years ago. And we have Sherbir Panag, who is an expert in international and white-collar crime law. If I can start with you, Mr. Singh, why is it? Would you accept that our laws are inadequate in roping all of these people in? Because what we see is, we see Interpol notices. In this particular case, of course, in Mehul Choksi's case, there was a diffusion notice out on his name. I'm not sure why, perhaps because the trial or the criminal investigations hadn't proceeded that far enough that CBI didn't get a red corner notice out. So there's a diffusion notice out on Mehul Choksi's name, but we are seeing all the big fish get away. Why?
See, Sunetra, the basic issue is that once they are abroad, it's very difficult to trace them, to track them, and to get them back. Extradition and deportation are all very difficult procedures, and they're pretty long winding procedures which require a lot of legal efforts. So it's not that, the fact that once they're out of the country, then you have a problem. As long as they're in the country, you can take care of it. So now,
when you say if they're out of the country, then there's a problem, do you mean to say, then you are saying it is very, very difficult to get them back?
It is.
Would you say it's impossible to get someone back?
No, it's not impossible. Now, for example, I don't know the details of this fugitive law that you just mentioned. This economic offenders law, is it?
Yeah.
So in this, if you can confiscate their properties in India, they will definitely probably come and face the law here, because ultimately there is a legal system in India.
Yeah.
And they can face it.
But just to clarify to our viewers and to clarify with you as well, what this law does is basically twist their arm. It's not, the law by itself doesn't help us catch people who are outside. It basically twists their arm by saying, look, we're taking away your stuff here. So if you don't come back, you won't.
Yeah, it's putting pressure. It's
putting
just
a lot of pressure.
Mode of it's putting a lot of pressure on them, because it's after all, your properties are worth a lot of money. So they have to, and there is a legal system in India. If you come back, you can fight the system.
This is very significant.
So it's not that you come back and then you're in jail or you're locked up or something. You have every recourse to the Indian law. So there is no reason why you shouldn't come and fight your cases out here.
Okay.
And this will give them this will put a little pressure on them and make them think that, okay, maybe we should come back and fight the legal process.
I think this is a very important point which our viewers should know, and that's the reality check as well, that while the government is pitching this as stopping the spate of economic offenders like Nirav Modi, like Mehul Choksi, what it is basically another pressure tactic. That's all it is. And I will come back to you, sir, to ask about what kind of pressure tactics we've had before and what kind of legal means you've had before. But I just want to get Sherbir Panag in, because Sherbir Panag, I know that you've been working in this particular area. What do you make of, can you tell us a bit about this whole route that Mehul Choksi has taken? How common is it? Because it seems, if we look at Jatin Mehta of Winsome, that's the same kind of thing that he did as well. He bought a citizenship of another country by investing in it, and that's the same thing that Mehul Choksi has also done. So it's an easy route for everyone. It's like a playbook for all those who want to evade Indian law.
Sunetra, I think you've hit the nail on the head. There's an entire industry out there that assists individuals who are likely to face prosecution for economic offenses or other offenses out there. You have several countries that offer citizenship. You have asylum lawyers. You have extradition lawyers. You'd recall, Sunetra, you broke the story way before the Financial Times did, pertaining to the fact that Nirav Modi was lurking around London and was considering legal assistance there. So I think what we need to come back to is the fundamental here is that these are all known tactics. Nothing that they're doing is out of the box. Nothing is new. This is fairly well known in the international legal circles, I'd say, and it's not just Indian fugitive billionaires for that matter. It's Russian oligarchs and so on and so forth who you avail these services. I think what we need to really take a step back, and while I completely agree with Mr. Singh on the point that extradition, deportation are significantly complex legal processes, I don't think we can absolve Indian law enforcement of the strategic deficit that they have when dealing with such cases. There is, now that we do know where people are likely to go, I think there's an element of preventive, presumptive action that can be taken both at the law enforcement level through the Old Boys Club, but also from a political strategy and from the Ministry of External Affairs on this fact can be reached out to. You reach out to the known havens, preempt these situations, start getting court orders that let them know about the malicious or malified intentions with which individuals are going to be seeking citizenship or asylum or trying to fight extradition proceedings.
You know what's interesting?
But I think that's entirely missing.
You're saying get in touch with them. And this I want to take to AP Singh. What's interesting is that Antigua apparently in its citizenship form has a column which says if you're charged with any crime, then you can't get citizenship. Is there any way that people kind of block that out? Is there any way they circumvent this provision, which is why they get it?
Well, I think there's sorry to jump in, I think there's a slightly nuanced position between merely being charged or being convicted. And the legal burden where we have sort of faced significant backlash and embarrassing backlash as a nation when we've sought extradition have been issues with our investigative processes, with our prison conditions, at the stage at which we end up seeking arrest or attachment, where the burden is fairly lower. An FIR would pretty much be a joke to any other legal criminal justice system in the world. But in India, we would like to treat it as the be-all, end-all conviction and the biggest celebration that we can have from the criminal justice system.
Okay, AP Singh, would you say that even when we have, in Antigua, we don't have an extradition treaty? Although I'm told that now there are ways of getting someone back from a country that you don't have an extradition treaty with. Can you tell our viewers what that is?
Yeah, let me explain one thing, that just because they become Antiguan or Dominican or Maltese citizens doesn't mean that they are free from all extradition.
Thank God for that.
Or other proceedings.
Yeah.
The minute a red corner notice is issued, it doesn't matter what passport you have.
So why isn't there a red corner notice out yet?
No, that's a question I can't answer.
What could be the possible reasons?
Let me tell you.
What could be the possible reasons?
Let me tell you what Mr. Shergill just mentioned is that Interpol earlier used to issue red corner notices at our request at will. Earlier. But after that, there were some dissidents, like the Chinese dissidents, or as he mentioned, the Russian oligarchs, against whom red corner notices were issued.
I see.
And there was a strong protest by the UN human rights bodies that you can't just issue our red corner notices at will. You must first do a bit of examination. So now they've started examining these cases. Whenever you send a case to them, they examine it. For example,
which is why Nirav Modi said he wants political asylum,
or maybe I think Lalit Modi's Interpol red corner notice was not issued.
No.
Or for example, that Zakir Naik, who's a preacher,
that's not been issued.
That has not been issued. So now they are looking into it. So it's not automatic.
Right.
So it takes time. So I'm sure if they've issued a red notice for Nirav Modi, they will issue the same for Mehul Choksi also, but maybe at a slightly later date after they have verified and they are satisfied that it meets their requirements.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, I was speaking to some officers today, investigators today, and they told me that both your agency, your former agency, the CBI, the NIA, they've written to the government several times because they say in order to fix this, I know they brought in an economic offenders bill, but as you said, that's just a pressure tactic. That's not going to bring people back. What they say is needed to bring people back is a central agency with experts who deal with this. At the moment, there's just a home ministry branch. which deals with it with one joint secretary who doesn't have the expertise. Would you agree that's a problem?
No, that definitely is a problem, but it doesn't mean that if you have a dozen experts sitting in the Home Ministry, you're going to get people extradited, because there are various levels of extradition. For example, in the EU countries, the only success I think we had was Abu Salem.
That's the only one, and that was in 2003.
Yeah.
Just to tell our viewers, how far away was that?
And even after he came back, he is still claiming that we violated a number of the clauses.
Yeah.
Now, all these things go back. And when Mehul Choksi says that, human rights conditions are not right, I'll be lynched.
Yeah.
Or there was a bookie.
Sanjeev Chawla.
Yeah, who said that the prison conditions in India.
Yes. And his extradition request got denied because of it.
And there's several levels. Like even in England, you have where Mallya is at the lowest court. He has the High Court to appeal to.
Yes.
He has the Supreme Court. And then if you are still in Brexit, he can go to the European Court of Human Rights.
Okay, so these are some technical problems with it, but Sherbi Panang is
Can I explain?
Please,
Just I'll give you one more example which happened in my time.
Oh, yeah.
That Kim Davies, for example.
Right.
He admitted that he had committed this crime. That he had dropped arms in Purulia. He admitted it. He said, "Yes, I've done it, but I can't go back to India because they'll kill me." And the courts accepted that he has committed the crime, but we cannot send him back to India because of human rights conditions.
And that's what may happen in UK because of prison conditions.
We have to satisfy these countries that no, these people will be properly looked after and they will be treated well, and the legal process will follow.
This is such an important lesson.
So in the end, even if you have everything with you, you've proved that there was criminality, you've proved that they had taken all these funds out, but in the end, human rights is equally important in these countries. They're very sensitive to this. In fact, Abu Salem, I think.
So why don't you raise it with Home Ministry that we have to take care of our prisons?
We did. We gave a lot of options. We said that we can have his trial anywhere in India at his choice. And even at one time there was a proposal that maybe we do the trial in Denmark itself, so that he's safe and he's convicted.
Okay, so Sherbi Panang, these are some of the technical problems which you mentioned as well, prison conditions, others. Is there something which the investigators are messing up? Is there something that is easily fixable which they're not doing?
So I think, Sunetra, that's a very good question, and Mr. Singh, I think, alluded to that when he was earlier speaking about the issue about where Interpol has now started applying its mind and is required to review cases before the RCN is issued. And the most common defense taken with the Interpol is politically motivated prosecutions. I think just the same way the accused are going to the Interpol way before the investigative agencies are, a track 2 that the investigative agencies ought to have with Interpol, that this is likely to happen, but we need to have a framework as well where we can, discuss issues which may be where the accused is trying to say it's politically motivated, but that's essentially just a means of escaping the law. We need to get into that track 2 mode, which is something that's been missing, and we've had far too many misses in this regard. Starting as early as Lalit Modi and now progressing more towards where we are with Mehul Choksi. Yeah. So that's the first point.
Yeah.
The second aspect comes in that we need that both the investigative agencies as well as prosecution agencies and the government have to work together, because when an offender is outside the country, there's a diplomatic element, there's of course the investigation and prosecution element. We need to get all three into sync, and all three need to be working together symbiotically.
Yeah.
And thirdly, I think what's key is what again Mr. Singh said, that we need to come up with a mechanism to process these cases better. Most of these cases have fallen flat on issues, like I said earlier, on due process, investigations.
I'm talking about due process, Sherbi Panang. I can tell you,
being made without adequate justification.
Yeah, I can tell you that once, as reporters, we went all the way to Argentina to trace the Quattrochi story. And the reason why that extradition process fell apart was because CBI didn't have a valid warrant. I mean, it was a complete blooper. It's not in your time. You weren't the director then. But once again, I know you have
similar mistakes. If you read the judgment in the Nadeem Saifi case, If you see the judgment in the Nadeem Saifi case,
Yeah.
if you see even in Sandeep Chawla's instant matter where they spoke of prison condition, these are all easily fixable problems. These are all situations that can be dealt with. Now,
Okay.
the challenge that ends up happening is that if CBI is going to fight this alone without the support of the Ministry of External Affairs or the Home Ministry,
Yeah.
because there are multiple spokes to this wheel.
Okay, I just
Prisons
wanted
come
to-
under an
Shelby,
entirely different
Mr.
ministry.
Singh, I just
CBI
wanted
has
to-
no jurisdiction over them.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to ask, we called up a lot of lawyers to see if anyone would defend Mehul Choksi, and Mr. Rajshekharan, a lawyer in Chennai, he said he would. Mr. Rajshekharan, how are you going to defend him on this particular point, that he was wanted here, India has been sending him summons, and he's just bought himself a citizenship of a distant country?
Sunitra, first let us understand this Choksi case. See, he was given loans.
So we know the
by
background of the
bank.
case. Can you tell me how you want to defend him?
Yes, I'll tell you. See, you should differentiate three different persons to a case-to-case issue. You cannot compare Vijay Mallya with Choksi and Choksi with Nirav Modi. This is three different entities, three different cases. So Choksi was given loans by the banks by taking whatever security then required by the banks. Of course, he has to repay, and when he has not repaid, the process started to get it back. So finally he landed up in Antigua and he got a citizenship. Now he is there. So again the due process has to follow to get him back, and everything will fall in place.
And that's what
But
we are
lately-
saying. He should just come back to face the law and then figure it out. You wanted to add something, sir?
The point that you were making, that
I think
there should be more cooperation.
Sorry, go ahead, sir.
So I would like to tell you that in Interpol, we already have an officer from the CBI. I don't know if he's still there, but he was there when I was there.
Yeah.
There's one officer on deputation to CBI in Interpol at the headquarters in Leon, and he's supposed to do all this.
So he's like the central figure.
Yeah. Now I'm not sure whether he's still there.
Well,
but
what
he
I was told
there.
was
He's supposed
MHA
to
looks
do
after the international investigations,
Yeah,
but
let me-
MEA has a separate one.
And let me tell you that we have this officer there, and his job is to follow up all these red notices that we issue. And we have one officer in Singapore also, who is meant to do look after the financial crime angle. Apart from that, as you rightly said, you need a lot of support from the External Affairs Ministry, and for that, when I was the director, we had sent a proposal that at least, if not in every country, in the major countries like say Dubai, and in Europe, in London, and in America, in New York, at least in the financial capitals, Hong Kong, we should have a CBI officer in deputation in the embassy.
Okay.
No, so that, because the embassy does help you, they
Yeah.
do cooperate, but it is not their baby. They have a lot of other jobs to do.
Okay.
So they would not be really following these
Okay.
cases with the intensity that you would like it to happen.
I don't know how convincing that is. Shelby Panag, this law, I asked Mr. Singh's opinion about this law. It's being pitched as the one which will fix all the economic offenders who've run away. Do you think it will really do that?
Sunitra, this law is far from being the one-stop shop solution that the government is touting this to be. I think first and foremost, the government hasn't come out clean with what is the objective of the law. What legal vacuum is this law trying to fill? We are unclear about whether we are trying to bring people back. Are we going to, if we are going to attach properties, are those attached properties going to be distributed amongst those who've been defrauded? It's a complete hodgepodge.
Yeah.
I think if the whole reliance of this law is going to be on deterrence, then deterrence alone is neither bringing back a Nirav Modi or a Vijay Mallya or a Mehul Choksi. I think if you're going to start, if that's going to be the paradox with which we're going to begin. Secondly, this law has significant issues dealing with from a due process perspective, which I strongly believe the Supreme Court will be forced to strike down. For example, search and seizure under this law doesn't require a warrant and doesn't even require a witness, which is mandatory under the Criminal Procedure Code. And
Yes.
you have even, you have laws such as the PMLA, the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, far more with serious consequences and prison time, which follow due process in terms of search and seizure. So this is, from the perspective of how this law has been conceived, I wouldn't want to go as far as saying that this is a diversionary tactic to take our minds off what's happening, but it's definitely, you know, we're trying to wag the dog by holding on to the tail. There's no cause and effect between what the cause of the problem is and how we're going to deal with it. It doesn't address the issue of people absconding. It doesn't even address the issue is that if you have attached properties, which is, you know, I'll take my eyes off the due process, you know, violations for a second. But if you do attach the properties, how are they going to reach those who've actually been defrauded? And what if tomorrow in trial, you know, Mr. Singh very, you know, spoke about and, you know, conveyed his faith in our justice system, which pretty much I have as well, but in our legal system. But what if our legal system tomorrow decides to acquit the concerned accused person? Here we have a law that would have attached his properties, sold those properties, not allowed him to defend a civil case. God forbid he needs to get divorced. How is he going to defend himself there?
These are just...
And how is he going to defend, you know, other civil claims that come up?
Okay, we're totally out of time, but these are just such important points that have been brought up.
Can I say
we're totally out of time, sir.
Just
2 seconds.
Okay. So the most important thing, I think, is reciprocity also in all these matters.
Yeah.
And I just heard that this Christian Michel, I've seen in the news, has been detained in Dubai on an Interpol notice.
Because of the princess.
And it's quite, that's what the media report said. I won't mention
the
why.
story is,
but obviously there was some reciprocal
well, that's a totally different story, which NDTV has been following. We were the first to break it as well. But perhaps for me, the big takeaway is that if you want international courts to uphold your request, then you have to have international standards in your prisons as well. That's perhaps one of the most important points. Remember, that was one of the key issues, key kind of extradition agreements to bring back Abu Salim, the last person more than 14 years ago who was brought back successfully by Indian authorities. Will we see more being brought back? Thanks very much, Sherbi Panak, AP Singh, and Mr. Raj Shekharan. That's it on Reality Check. We'll be back again tomorrow. Join us then. Goodbye.